Hello, today we're going to be talking about one type of mate called smothered mate. Now, I will come back to the tactics playlist, but for now we're going to be taking a break from it. And we're going to be looking at types of mates, checkmates. So, let's look at smothered mate. So, the answer to last week's puzzle where black had a chance to fork white and you have to find out how. So, if you haven't already, you can pause the video now and figure it out. But the answer is queen to g2. Check. Now, the king is forced to move, and when the king does move, the queen will capture the rook, and with proper play, win the game. So, smothered mate is a mating pattern, meaning it is a way to checkmate the other side. Smothered mate is when the king is completely blocked in by its own pieces and is safely checked by a knight. Since knights can jump over pieces, and by safely, I mean like the knight can't be captured by anything and stuff like that. If you are confused by this definition, then you can see the example and come back to this definition because then it'll make more sense. And it involves discover checks and double checks, and those will be explained in a future video. And once you watch that video, you can come back to this video. Or you can go the other way around. So here's the final product of a smothered mate. A smothered mate is basically when the king is blocked in by its own pieces and the other side checks that king with the knight, and since the king can't move anywhere thanks to all the pieces it's blocked in by, then it's checkmate. So here's the procedure for the most common type of smothered mate. So right now the king is not able to move to f8, and the queen is on the same line as the king, but the white knight is blocking it. And there's a pawn on g7 and h7, so that's gonna work out nicely. So first, we need to get that knight to f7, so we play knight to g5 check, which is a discovered check, and then the king is forced to move to h8. Well, you could block with the queen on c4, but come on, you're just gonna be an extra queen down while you're getting checkmated. So there's really no use in that move. If you do play that, I'll just take you in on c4 and continue with the checkmating process. So then black will go to h8. Then we can come to f7 like we really wanted to. Check. So the king is forced to come out to g8 again. And now here's where the double check comes in. The double check is basically, for a short explanation, when two pieces are checking the king at the same time. And double checks and discovered checks are very important for the smothered mate. So now what we do is move to h6, our knight, and then we're checking the king with both the queen and the knight. So he can't capture the knight, because if he captures the knight, the queen will still be attacking the king. So the king has to move. In a double check, the king has to move. There's no other way. So the king is forced to move to h8 once again. And now here's something that you might think is a very bad move, but in reality it's a really great move. Queen to g8. I know, this seems crazy, but now the king can't capture the queen. The king can't capture the queen because it's defended by the knight, so the rook has to capture to save the king from the check. And if you remember the position from before, there was a rook on g8, a pawn on g7, and a pawn on h7, and the king was on h8, and the knight was on f7. the king right now the king is blocked on g7 and h7, and this now the rook has to capture. So now the king is completely boxed in by its own pieces. We are now able to play the move knight to f7 checkmate. So that's how a smothered mate works. If you want, you can watch this again just so that you have another feel for it, like how to actually do it. And you can always come back to this if you need to know how to do a smothered mate. That's not the only type of smothered mate, even though it's the most common and the one they show in examples. Here's another smothered mate where take a second to think what the smothered mate would be, since the king is almost completely blocked in by its own pieces. Knight to d6 is wrong because it does check the king, but and you can't capture with the e7 pawn because it's pinned, but the king can move to d7 and you can capture with the c pawn or with the queen, so that's not going to work. So that's why knight to f6 is the correct move. Nothing can capture that knight because the pawn on e7 is pinned and nothing else can. And the king can't move to d7 because the knight is attacking that square. So the king can't move to d8, e7, f7, or f8 because all of those pieces are occupied by block pieces. So the king can't move anywhere. And note that the e7 pawn is pinned, so it can't capture the f6 knight. Therefore, this is a smothered mate. Your turn. Here's a position that you'll probably never come across, but just for learning purposes, this is white to play and white to smothered mate. The answer will be in next week's video. And also, not all smothered mates have to be from white side. Black side can do the same thing if the conditions are right for them. So don't go assuming that if you get black, you'll never be able to use this. So I hope you enjoyed. If you have any feedback, you can post in the comments or the form in the description of all videos, and the form is anonymous, so I don't know who filled it out. Please hit that like button and subscribe for more videos like this one because it takes a lot of time and effort to make these videos. You can visit the chess playlist to see all the chess videos, and goodbye!